All right, music fans, welcome. Harmless Dave here talking about real issues, real music, doing it in real time for a few real people who remain just like you and just like me. I'm going to say this before I start talking about this. I'm starting to feel kind of lonely. Not to say that there aren't many people who follow the channel, who send me messages, they're encouraging messages. Many of them appreciate my new direction that the channel has taken, not because I don't want to talk about music anymore. I'd love to just talk about music, and I do from time to time, just do straight up music videos. But we're in a crisis in this country and around the world. And the people who are coming forward in the music business, who are disappointing me, it's like a daily occurrence. So I feel like everyone's against me. Like I'm the only one who thinks the way I think. I'm starting to feel like, what's that guy, Aaron Lewis? I was going to say Aaron Rodgers. Is it Aaron Rodgers? I don't know. Anyway, the quarterback versus the singer. See, my brain is basically spaghetti right now trying to think about this stuff. But Robert Cray has decided to unfriend Eric Clapton. Yep. Because Eric Clapton wrote a song with Van Morrison called Stand and Deliver. Now, the song has these very sketchy lyrics. Do you want to know what these lyrics are? Do you want to be a free man or do you want to be a slave? Uh-oh. Do you want to wear these chains until you're lying in the grave? Those are the lines that offended Robert Cray. By the way, full disclosure here, I was a huge Robert Cray fan. As of today, I am no longer a Robert Cray fan. See, they do it to us, right? They just cancel you and say, I used to like that guy, but then he started talking about lockdowns. And people did it to me on this channel. They said, you know what? I had a patron send me messages, paid to send me messages, to tell me numbers and statistics that were completely wrong, by the way, and that were just corporate propaganda. And I said, okay, well, and I was nice. I said, I appreciate your support and good luck. And thanks for supporting the channel. I don't agree with you. And they said, I used to like you, but then you started this. And I said, okay, bye-bye. I wish you well. I don't wish anybody ill will, maybe Gene Simmons, but for the people that have supported this channel and spent money to support the channel on Patreon, of course, thank you. All right. People come over sometimes and say, you know, I don't always agree with your takes, but I love your channel and thank you for doing what you're doing. Now, in the case of Robert Cray, I've defended that guy 7 ways to Sunday, right? And the music industry screwed him over in the 1990s. He was on a roll. He had 2 or 3 albums, and I was there for those albums and promoted those albums and instantly played those albums courtesy of what? Polygram Records all over the place, even adding tracks that the record label didn't ask me to add because we had a classic rock station. And the blues stuff that Cray was putting out was accessible, was upbeat. At times it was somewhat comical, had some great lyrics. And Cray was just this beast guitarist, and he still is. And he's still a great singer and a great player. But if you don't have the capacity to think critically about the lyrics that Eric Clapton and Van Morrison wrote, and you're equating them with the kind of slavery that your ancestors were dealing with, I can't help you, because these are 2 very separate things. And is the word slave supposed to be banned from the English language? Because then if you wipe out that word, then Van and Eric can go back to the drawing board and come up with a different lyric and a different rhyme. Let me read you the lyrics from the song Stand and Deliver. Everyone calls it an anti-lockdown. It's an anti-lockdown. No, here's what it really is. It's a pro-freedom song. It's a pro-freedom song. Do you want to be a free man? See, freedom, free man. Or do you want to be a slave? So if you're free, then you're not a slave. If you're a slave, then you're not free. See how that works? That is not a reference to colonialism or the stuff that happened at the beginning of our founding, which nobody thought was a good idea later on. And it took a long time to take care of that and to make things right. And we're still trying to do it even today, because people are so hypersensitive about it that they're never going to let it go, and they're just going to lord it over you. And if you write lyrics like this, they're going to say, oh, it's just a reference to some of the worst things about us. Anyway, do you want to be a free man, or do you want to be a slave? Do you want to wear these chains until you're lying in the grave? Okay, so you got the chains in there, and Robert Cray, I think, is inferring that this is a song that has a double meaning of some kind. I don't know, a dog whistle. We hear this all the time in the media. Well, that's just Clapton and Morrison doing a dog whistle to all of their white fans. Okay. Apparently, Robert Cray emailed Eric Clapton to ask him if he was comfortable with the slavery references. Well, there's only one slavery reference here. Well, I guess wearing chains. But see, here's the thing. There are tons of songs out there that have chains in them. I don't know how many songs have the word slave. I think the Rolling Stones wrote a song called Slave, right? And that one is really dicey. Anyway, his reaction back to me, this is Clapton, getting back to Robert Cray, although they don't actually print Clapton's actual reaction, was that he was referring to slaves from, England from way back, Cray said. Cray became increasingly unhappy with the rest of the conversation and eventually ended it by saying he wouldn't take part in their planned tour. See, I don't even know if that was Clapton's response. The word slave today is still applicable because you've got a big government who is putting their citizens into a lockdown. Robert Cray, why is this so hard for people? Why? Seriously. Again, I'm starting to feel like Bruce Willis in Die Hard 3. All right, I've got this nagging headache and it won't go away. And eventually I'll get rid of it. Promise. But it makes for a great video. I've told myself I don't need to have a conversation, Cray added. I'd just not rather associate with somebody who's on the extreme and being so selfish. This is a constant theme throughout this, that you are being selfish. By the way, Eric Clapton did do the thing, Robert Cray. So how is he being selfish? Because he doesn't want countries to lock their citizens down? Again, it's opposite day here on the RMO channel. Thanks for tuning in, by the way. We started playing a music that wasn't particularly popular to start off with at the time we started playing. Au contraire, Robert Cray, you and Clapton were both very popular, especially when you were hanging out together. People loved the Robert Cray, Eric Clapton kind of double bill. I think this happened, I'm sure, back in the late 80s. People were getting along. By the way, we had a lot of freedom back then. There wasn't any, like medical tyranny or medical apartheid going on. And again, if you use the word apartheid, some people might say, oh man, Dave, how insensitive, because there can be only one kind of apartheid, right? There can only be one kind of slavery too. Cray goes on, and this doesn't really make any sense here. We've gained some notoriety, and I'm fine with that, but I surely don't need to hang out with Eric Clapton for that to continue. So he's basically saying that he doesn't need Clapton anymore. He's big enough to just go out on his own, which I agree with. But the way he's treating Eric Clapton here is ridiculous. Several Clapton collaborators also discussed his anti-lockdown stance with the Washington Compost and accusations of the R word he's received over the years. Others expressed bewilderment I'm bewildered over the apparent extremity of his position on the measures. These are just measures, people. They're not lockdowns. They're not edicts. They're not mandates. They're just measures. They're measures. Measures is a nice word. It's friendly. It's flowery. Noting Clapton's generosity on projects like the Crossroads Center drug facility, which has been worth $20 million to date. Not worth, but it's probably raised $20 million to date to help people who are probably drug addicts, right? Nobody I've talked to knows Eric has an answer, drummer Jim Keltner said. We're all in the same boat. We're all going, I can't figure it out. Wow. So Jim Keltner, who is a great drummer, just like Robert Cray is a great singer, a great guitar player, a great songwriter. Jim Keltner can't figure out why Eric Clapton doesn't like lockdowns. In the end, Clapton was described as a cautious, reserved character with whom some never felt close. All right. So this dates back to the video I did where I said they would just deconstruct Eric Clapton. Nobody felt comfortable with Eric. Eric was a loner. Eric was hard to read. Eric was kind of weird. He just kind of did his own thing and kept to himself. Oh, okay. Like there aren't billions of people who are of this same ilk who don't act the same way as Eric Clapton, kind of reserved and never knew what to expect with Eric Clapton. And that made some of us feel very uncomfortable, especially when you look back at his history of being the R word. Now his weird take on something that everybody does. Again, I think of that damn Verizon commercial or whatever it was where everybody bundles. Everybody bundles because you'll save money. So you got to bundle like everybody else. Everybody does the thing, Eric Clapton. So what if you couldn't use your hands? Everybody does it. I mean, isn't this like the oldest, like in elementary school? Mom, everybody's jumping over the fence. I want to do it. Everybody does it, Mom. Can I do it? Everybody's got a golden calf. I want one too. It's like, what are these people smoking at this point? So Jim Keltner, really, you're going to deconstruct Eric Clapton? Well, he was always kind of a quiet type. Robert Cray, he's extreme. He's extreme because he wants people to be free. And he shouldn't have used the S word. Seriously, just don't use that word. Eric, aren't you uncomfortable with those lyrics? How about one chain don't make no prison? Anyone know that song? Anyone? Bueller? Should that be like erased from history? One chain don't make no prison. I don't know. I'm just throwing out songs, because I'm thinking of songs with lyrics that I guess you're not supposed to use. Again, the Rolling Stones did a song called Slave. Go look it up. Yeah. And they've had a history. And by the way, they're starting to catch flack for it now, years later. And by the way, I don't think they deserve it. I think it's kind of funny that they're just kind of, bending to the wishes of all these do-gooders or politically correct idiots, right? But now they can't do Brown Sugar. Well, I was never really comfortable with that song, says Robert Cray. Well, he didn't say that here, but I could just picture him, Jim Keltner, coming back and say, the Stones have had a history, and Mick Jagger's had a history of just writing these songs, and they just need to be banned. We need to shame everybody into, compliance. Ooh, that sounds familiar, right? Shaming people into compliance. By the way, again, for the record, for the 100th time, Eric Clapton went and did the thing. And his result, his reaction, wasn't so good. So he kind of changed his position on it, right? Just like a lot of people are all around the world who are going out and doing it, and then they have a testimony. Or they might not be breathing anymore, so they might not have a testimony. They will have zero to tell anybody. Their relatives and friends will scream and yell about it, and this will be known as the greatest psyop, catastrophe, whatever you want to call it, in the world's history. But people like Robert Cray will probably side with all those people who say, you know, it's just a crazy coincidence, or even better, it's all in their head. It's all in their head. Didn't actually happen. It's just, well, he's not here anymore. All of these people, every single day now, I'm getting a link from somebody about someone, not necessarily in the music business, but more often than not, who is no longer breathing. Mysteriously, no longer breathing. So Robert Cray, it's not okay to kind of send out a little warning, to come up with a little prose here using a couple of words. And it's a reference to slavery, which, by the way, still exists in different countries. It still exists. So I guess, you know, you can't, if you want to ban the word, just say, hey, Eric, you know, you should ban the word. And Clapton's response, apparently what Clapton probably should have said to this clown was, look, that has nothing to do with what the song is about. These words are used to describe oppressive governments, dude, who are going to lock you down if you don't comply with their edicts, which aren't laws. It's all capricious. It's all garbage. And we're going to sit here and we're just going to take it because Robert Cray says so and he's uncomfortable with it. Well, you know what? There are a lot of people here in the United States and around the world that seem to be really uncomfortable with a lot of things that are happening. Does that make everybody the R word? Does it? I mean, can we have an honest discussion? You know, people wouldn't survive today if they turned on network television in the 1970s in prime time, and they were either going to watch All in the Family or The Jeffersons. They wouldn't survive that. There would be lawsuits. There would be calls to ban the television programs because of some of the things being said. I mean, I don't know if they've banned specific episodes out of, you know, the catalog of shows, but my hunch is they don't show those particular episodes anymore. And that was a time where we could be offended and laugh about it a little bit. And we weren't hypersensitive. This is beyond the pale here with Robert Cray, because this song isn't about that, Robert, and you know that. Just like Gene Simmons knows that people who oppose him and his views on this stuff have done their own thinking about it. And I know you're not supposed to do your own research. Quarterback who does his own research, he's mocked. What? Is he smarter than the FDA and the CDC? Is he smarter? I would say yes, unequivocally, without even questioning this. I don't care who's in charge over there. I don't care which college they went to, what master's degree they have. It's clear that Aaron Rodgers is smarter than anybody over there. And so is Joe Rogan. And so are a number of people who have begun to speak out on this because they don't just tune in to these mainstream puppets who just spout what Pfizer. This episode of Law and Order is being brought to you by Pfizer. And people don't think there's like a conflict of interest there. Hey, Robert Cray, who's going to sponsor your tour? Is it going to be Pfizer? Is it going to be Moderna? How about Purdue Pharma? Incredible what's happening out here right now, people. And for those of you who think I've lost my mind because I've taken a different direction here, think about your future, your families, the people who you love. Think of how we're going to interact with each other in the future. It's already almost impossible. The fact that Cray is calling out Clapton and Morrison for a song that has to do with tyranny. Tyranny. So you can't write a song about tyranny if it's somehow vaguely connected to something that happened 200 years ago. And yes, I know the history of that, and I know the oppression involved with that. You would, oh, and by the way, Robert Cray, let's just get one thing clear here. African Americans are the most hesitant group among us. So you should do a little bit of your own research. I know you're not supposed to do your own research, but if you want to play that card, right? You want to throw down that card. In New York City, it was something like only 32% of that community decided to go along with the herd because they know they've been made into guinea pigs in the past. And I think even Biden said something about the Tuskegee experiments. Do you know what that is, Robert Cray? Do you know what that is? I know you know the history of words and what they meant before, but do you know what governments have done to people of color in the past? Do you know what they've done? Okay, maybe you do, maybe you don't, and you're just taking this argument because it's going to be better for you, because you're going to play all these venues and they're going to have all these rules and they're going to welcome you with open arms, and you're just going to be another member of the Borg. You're just going to go along to get along, and you don't need Eric Clapton. I get it. You don't need Clapton. Clapton doesn't need you either. How's that? Clapton does not need Robert Cray. It's a shame because, again, from my standpoint, from a music point of view, Robert Cray is a beast. Oh, shouldn't use that word, right? That's in a good way, Robert Cray. You're a beast on guitar, on vocals, got great material out there. You're still putting out great material. And the industry that you're kind of going along with and trying to prop you up screwed you 30 years ago. They screwed you over, but yet you're going to just play the game and go along with these people, even though they stole money right out of your pocket when those formats changed and your music was gone. When do you hear Robert Cray on the radio these days? How about never? You don't even hear Smoking Gun. I don't hear Smoking Gun on any radio station anywhere. All right, I need to breathe. I need to take some Xanax. No, I'm not going to actually take Xanax. I will take some essential oils and then I will chill out for a while.